Hi, this is Carl Polachuk, and welcome to another SMB Community Podcast. My guest today is Tim Conkle, who is one of the handful of people I've seen probably in a dozen cities across the country. That's not a very common thing for me. So Tim is with the 20. Why don't you give us 30 seconds on you and 30 seconds on the 20?
I've just been in this space since 1992. Right after the military, I have a MSP in Dallas called Rolling Technology Group, and then move forward through time. You've got a couple things that came out of that. One was Citricom, and the other is the 20. And so for me, I've been in the space for a long, long time. I've seen it all the way back from break fix, white box building, IT little front window shops, all the way out to where we are now. It's really, really cool. The 20, on the other hand, it's a like-minded group of MSPs that all got together that said, hey, if we standardize and we move in one direction and we all geographically define ourselves, how big and how easy would it be to make a footprint out of that? And that's kind of an easy, quick way of explaining what it is.
All righty. So what's funny for me is there's a group of people, and many of whom I actually like and respect on Facebook, who keep posting up things like, oh, look, with this, now ClearOS is out there. We can build a substitute for small business server. And I'm like, oh, my God, why the hell would you do that? So, it's funny for me because I started in IT about 1993 and started my business in 95. So I'm right, a couple years behind you there. But as you look through how we've evolved, isn't it amazing, like what we can do today with the tools that we have and, how far we've advanced? It's amazing to me.
It is incredible. I mean, if we go back, so 90, 92, 93, 95, you remember back Lantastic, Novell Lite, Windows for Work groups, token
and making them all talk to each other, right?
Just back then in the same building, just making things work. Now we really have evolved into where an IT company that has vision really can build a big company, and it's not just geographically right here.
Right.
So it's crazy. You're right. It is nuts. But what's happened in that is a lot of engineers have come along through up the path, and you're right. A lot of them do some crazy stuff. That's why, to me, if you're on the island, if you're an individual IT company making decisions, I think you're nuts. I think you have to have community, and whether that's ASCII, whether that's Robin Robbins, whether that's HTG, I don't really care. But if you don't have community, somebody that you can really trust to say, hey, I'm about to build out cloud infrastructure, what would you do?
Right. So with the 20, you guys don't just talk to each other and say, hey, I got a client with this, Cisco router, who knows how to configure them. You guys actually have engaged at a much higher level, right?
We have. So if you look, the 20 really boils around three basic fundamental things. Lead gen, in other words, getting leads, sales, selling the deal. We all sell the exact same way, same model, same way of doing business. But really what makes it special is the scale. So you can take a company that's in Boston and they walk into a potential client and the client says, hey, I have an office in New York, Dallas, and Boston. And we want an IT company that's got footprint there. It's easy for them to say, yeah, I can do that because service delivery is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is what's on site. So you become part of a network, not only that you can share a client across the geographics, but think about this. If you had 10 little small IT companies, why would all 10 have a high-end VMware guy? Why not just have one and reach in and consume him when you needed it?
Right.
And then even go a step further. All of us hold expertise, so we all communicate across a communication portal where you can ask a technical question or, hey, I'm having this problem. You can probably get 15 answers back, and it's all good. Right. Even to the point somebody says, hey, let me just log in and help you look at it. It's actually really cool.
Do you, if I had a client in Dallas, Do we have a formal arrangement where I say, look, I brought the work, you're going to do the work, so you get 70%, I get 30%? Do you have that kind of a split arrangement, or is it all informal?
No, it's all formal. We actually have a method to multi-location. We have one multi-location client that covers about 6 cities in the U.S. and then the Netherlands and the UK. We're actually providing help desk for those guys over in Europe.
So there are no vendors here, and nobody's paying us to say or not say anything. So
Yep.
if you're comfortable with it, you share one set of back end tools.
We do. So we have what's called a standard stack, and that is Kaseya and BMS. Why did we go Kaseya and BMS? Because it would scale, and they would do some software adjustments just for the group, because we all live in one instance of these things, which means, let's say you had 10 IT companies sitting around a table. They all have a PSA. That means they had to set it up, maintain it, upgrade it, fix it. Right. Well, if all 10 said, hey, let's live in one, all of a sudden, nine times of labor goes away, because now you upgrade it once, maintain it once, set it up once. So you do it to best practice. So Kaseya and BMS scaled with us. And that was our bigger problem, was finding one that would just scale. And then we use Deep Instinct for security for a lot of reasons. We use OpenDNS, Cisco product. We use FuseMail for our mail, spam protection, continuity, ClickSmart to make sure the URLs don't get clicked that get clicked in there. We use Huntress in that stack. We use Password Boss in that stack. And there's a couple others. That is the standard stack right now. As we go along, we'll push that further. So right now we're standardizing towards Palo Alto and Fortinet. We just now are going to where we're formalizing how we deal with cloud, with a strategy behind that really takes us to the next level.
So are you the one making these decisions?
I wish I could make all those. If I'm honest, I'd be the smartest guy on the face of the earth, right? No, we actually have really, really good people, not only in the group, but at what you term corporate for the 20, a real CIO, a real CTO, real management structure, to where when we're looking at products and things from a security standpoint or anything else, not only do we take input from the group and the group looks at things, but we kind of culminate that way. And at the end of the day, not everybody gets what they want exactly. Like somebody might want Sophos or something WebRoot or McAfee or Norton, something like that. And we've standardized on Deep Instinct. We get it, but we move as one. Why? For the betterment of the group. Easier when you've got one help desk that facilitates everything, to train on a standard versus every product that sits out there in the marketplace. And if I'm honest, the 20 is not for everybody. I mean, you truly have to understand what the vision is for your company, and you have to be able to live in this thing where you don't get to make every decision.
Right. And you have to be willing to say, look, I may not be the happiest in terms of making all the decisions, but look at all the money.
Oh, you have to think about the upside. I mean, think about it. Think about a 5-man IT company. When he can walk into a client and say, yes, so the help desk is only for members. We don't do any one-offs. In fact, I had a company call me that had around 2,000 endpoints that just want level 1 help desk. And they had been told by somebody that, man, the 20's help desk, everything to it, the NOC, the help desk, everything is US based. And they wanted that. That was important to them. And but they just wanted a level 1 help desk. And I said, the only way to use this help desk is through a member. So I'm not going to be able to help you. And so at the end of the day, it's not a third-party help desk in the sense that anybody can use it. It's a help desk built by a group of MSPs. So you can walk into a client and say, hey, I've got a help desk in Dallas. It's all US-based. I'm not 5 people. I'm 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 people deep.
Right.
So you get all of the upside of being either one of two things, either part of a company that's huge, like a Mindshift to All Covered, where they have all those pieces. So now you can compete at that level. or you would have the same things that you'd have if somebody bought you and you lost all the upside.
Right.
You know.
So do you all actually use the same PSA, or do you like put your PSAs together with how they have the ability to throw tickets to other people?
No, we all live in the same PSA and the same RMM.
So yeah, so you don't have to worry that one person's statuses don't necessarily line up with another person's statuses. Because there are, like some of these things, they come with 50 statuses, 40 of which you're never going to use.
Yep. And not only that, but think about this. If everybody's not connected and two people create a ticket, well, one's going to have a different ticket number. So if the help desk, which is the first line of defense for a client, they call, help desk answers the call, they create the ticket. Well, if that client calls their local IT guy and says, hey, what's up with ticket 456? Well, the local guy, if he's in a different system, logs in, I don't have a ticket 456.
Right, now he's going to go log into something else.
Well, and they don't match. So statuses, updates, notes, everything are not the same place. And I think that's probably the number one problem with most help desks now is they're so disconnected that it creates chaos, and the client gets to that point where, well, whose help desk is that? They don't know anything about us. Well, our documentation, everything is all single tenant. So even take IT Glue. We all use IT Glue. We're all in a single instance of IT Glue.
So you had to probably strong arm some of the vendors to go along with this, because I know a lot of them are like, no, I want to sell 8 licenses here and 14 licenses there, and I want all the unused license revenue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you bring up a really good point. So if a guy went to buy a RMM right now from somebody, most likely he'd have to buy a minimum of $250, even if he needs it or not. Not only is he going to buy $250, he's going to pay a high price. Why? He's only buying $250. Right. In the 20, we all pay the same thing, and it's based off our aggregated number. And you only do what's consumed. So if a guy needs 100, if he has 100 endpoints, that's all he buys of every product. So think about that. If your antivirus charges you for a minimum, if your PSA charges you for a minimum, the RMM charges you, all of a sudden, you may be paying $4 or $5 an endpoint. I mean, that's nuts.
Right. Well, and we used to, have 2 products, RMM and a PSA. But now everybody's like, oh, no, you got to have antivirus, you got to have a BDR, you got to have documentation, the number of things that are kind of required to just be in the business seems to explode all the time. How do you decide, like as a group, how do you get together and decide we're going to adopt this tool or that tool? Do you actually have a meeting together once a quarter or something like that?
So we have quarterly meetings in Dallas, and then we have yearly meeting. It's called Vision. In fact, Vision is coming up. This is the first year I'm actually opening up to the general public. Probably some of the most well-guarded secrets inside the 20 is the sales process. I'm actually going to tell the industry. Anybody can come here exactly how I sell and how I package the model and what makes us better at the end of the day. And I want to do that because I think that it makes all of us better. I think that if you look at IT as a general principle right now, our clients typically hate the business side of us doing business. They love what we provide, the IT and how we make things work, but they literally hate the business arrangement. And the reason being is it's contrary. Typically, the IT by contract, the business side doesn't have the best interest of the client in mind, and vice versa. And so we fix that, but we do get together. We have monthly Zoom meetings where we all log in and we talk about tools, we talk about other things. We just at this quarterly created roundtables. So most of us belong to an accountability group inside the group to help us grow, to help us do the 3 bubbles: lead gen, sales, and scale. And then how do we take the most important things to us and bring them up all the way to the top? We're going to do that with roundtables, and each roundtable will have a specific thing that they do. Like one is standards, one is service delivery, another is security.
So how many
so
members do you have total? It's not just 20?
No, no. There's about 180 right now. Our ultimate goal is probably around 500. That'll give us where we can cover every square inch of the U.S. We learned something about every 50 people that companies that log in or become a part. If you look across the 20, there's if you take all the MSPs and everything, there's around 1,000 employees. So it starts to look, well, it looks really cool when you can walk in and say, hey, I belong to an organization that's 1,000 employees. We can handle any size company. So what you see is a lot of multi-location companies are starting to use the 20. Why? Well, you can get same service delivery in one throat to choke, one contract.
So do members, like if somebody wanted to join, do they basically just sign up and start paying you a flat fee, and then, they get to use all the tools?
No. Used to in the beginning when we were trying to build it, it was like, we'll take anybody.
Right.
Now we've gotten a little bit pickier in what we're doing. We want the right fit. If we really feel like you're not the right fit, it is our responsibility to tell you, and even tell you, hey, here's some things that you need to do, and you'll be ready for the 20. But it's just, if I opened it up to anybody, it would cease to be exclusive. It would cease to have a single vision. It would, and so you can look. Some people make it through and decide 20 is not for me, which is okay. We have a partner level and elite level, and we're working on a third level right now. Partner level is that level where you've got 12 months to decide this is really long-term vision strategy for my company, or it's not. And if it's not, no harm, no foul.
That's interesting. So did you ever read Tony Hsieh's book, the guy who founded Zappos?
I have not.
So one of the things that they do is that they go through this lengthy interview process, and then when they think they're going to hire somebody, they offer them, and I can't remember what it is, but it's something like, we'll give you $1,000 if you don't take the job. Otherwise, we'll hire you, right? It's basically like if you're kind of on the fence and you got one foot out the door, right, this gets rid of you, right? But everybody who says, no, I won't take the money, I'll take the job, they know that they're there to stay. So that's kind of what that reminded me of.
Yeah, and here's the reality. If you're going to build a national footprint of like-minded MSPs that want to facilitate a footprint and do a single marketing down to the space, I mean, there is nothing, if you look, there is nothing that exists at this size or scope that does all those pieces at the S&B level. I mean, you look at Mindshift, All Covered, and some of the other guys that they've got 40. I think All Covered's got around 60 locations footprint wise that would do common. In other words, it's a common service delivery. You're looking at 180 here. There is nobody even close to that. Now you've got some franchises, but they're not common. They don't share a common delivery system and all that stuff. They don't share all the pieces, the same sales process and all that. And
so do your members all sell the same thing in terms of, like, they all sell maintenance-based, preventive maintenance, managed services, or do they do, some do break fix and some have a storefront?
No, everybody, now don't get me wrong, when someone comes in, they may have a variety of things, but we all push towards a single way of doing business. In fact, to the point that we've rebranded ourselves MIDs instead of MSPs. MSP is really managed service provider. Nobody really knows what that means. But in the sales process, we tell every single client, we want to be your managed IT department. Think of us as your IT department. Well, why don't we call ourselves managed IT departments?
Right.
And we've rebranded, so we all call ourselves MIDs because truly we want all the technology, even to the point where copiers, phone, all of that stuff, we manage all of it, even to the sale of those things. Now, how we did that is we created national deals with companies that would allow us to facilitate that. So we can give any of our clients a copier at any given time if they need it. So all we're trying to do is, one, become truly the IT department. We push and kind of get direction for all of our clients of where they go, all the way out to budget, planning, everything. And so we deal with the business side of IT, because if you can't do the service delivery, you're going to get fired anyway.
Right.
So what's really important to a business owner or a client is the business side. Am I making the right business decisions? Are you the right business decision? And so all my sales processes is built around the business side of selling IT.
And are most of your partners larger? Because it seems to me really, I mean, I do a bit of coaching, right? And really small companies have trouble making more than one change at a time. And it seems to me that you have to have a certain size to be able to change 3 or 5 things, in a short order.
So if they're between 200 and 1,000 endpoints, this works perfect. Anything to the top side. So if you get into, I've got some that's got 3,000, 4,000 endpoints, but you really have to understand, and it's a longer cycle. But if it's somewhere between 200 and 1,000, it's a very easy shift, because they do two days of training with me in Dallas. And once you hear the whole thing, this is a no-brainer. It really is. So at Vision this year, I'll give away one piece that I do that we've all held sacred, and that is how to get a yes on the initial meeting in selling our stuff. You have to create a model that is easy for a business guy to say yes to. The easiest way to do that is create the business decision instead of an IT one. And so, and I promise you, we have kept this so secret because it is so different than anybody else, even the way it's presented and everything. But I think for the IT space as a whole, to really be, I don't know how to say this without sounding a little crappy. Well, to right size, to get to where our clients love us as much as we love our clients, we have to align ourselves. And it's really about aligning the business side, because the IT side they know nothing about. So if we can align on the business side, it is a really good relationship. So you take all the bumps and bruises out of the relationship and only make it about a yes or no. Yes, I'm being serviced. Great. No, I'm not. It's just a business. It's a checklist and a business thing.
Right. Well, I do very little technical type training, because I figured out about 15 years ago that there's no gap for me to fill on technical training. There's a huge gap for me to fill on the business side of business. Right. So I'm a firm believer in that. Question about kind of the environment we're in. The last, 3 to 5 years has been this merger and acquisition frenzy. Has that affected the 20 at all, or do you guys just sit off on the side having a beer and watching the show?
So yeah, we're sitting on the side having a beer watching the show. And if you really think about it, I've said this, there's going to be 3 types of companies, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years. When we talk about IT, our space, you're either going to be bought. In other words, you're going to sell to somebody. Now, when you sell to somebody, you get an earn out most likely, and you get no upside of the potential of having all the tools that 20 gives you. So you don't get any upside of having a full-fledged help desk that's 24/7. You don't get the upside of having footprint. The company that bought you gets all of that. So all of that potential revenue, you never have. So some people decide to sell. So if you sell, it's okay. You're out of the game and you're good to go. Second kind is going to be those that decide to sit on the sidelines and do nothing. Small IT companies, 5 employees and less, who are going to become irrelevant because they're not going to be able to provide the service level or just the feature set. And lots of companies want the feature set now. So some people will join the 20 to get that, or they'll be the second one, which will sit on the sidelines, 5 employees or less, 10 employees or less, and hope to make it through. It reminds me a lot of growing up I mowed yards. When I was growing up, only kids mowed people's yards. No kids mow yards anymore.
Right.
That's company. So you don't have that individual that mows yards. I see the IT industry the same way. Now, the third type of company is going to join something like the 20 where they get all the pieces, but then they get the upside of having those pieces and not have to build it themselves. So in other words, they don't have to buy companies, they don't have to sell companies to grow. They grow organically by having the pieces spread across a lot of MSPs. I even see a single brand.
Very cool. So what is the future with the cloud? Because right now we see, in my opinion, the people who are still pushing on-site servers are literally living in the past. They're using a business model that doesn't exist anymore. But for you guys, do you partner with somebody like Microsoft? Do you partner with Google? I mean, what do you push going forward? Because the world is changing pretty fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. So if you look in what Microsoft would call white space, 250 endpoints or less, Microsoft has never been able to really penetrate that. Why? Because MSPs control that space. And so what you have is you have all of these channel cloud companies that are all over the place. The offering is different at each one. You choose the one you like and you go forward. I think long-term strategy, I think that's nuts. You see Windows 10 now being in the cloud workspace. So at some point, no one is going to have on-prem Windows 10 machines. They're going to be just endpoints. And the 20 itself sees a strategy with Microsoft. So think about this for a minute. A cloud, any vendor, I don't care who it is, a vendor goes to a show to pick up what? Partners. Now, out of those partners, if they pick up 20 partners, they're going to have a percentage of them that do something. But none of them are going to be loyal and move in one direction. What if a vendor could just step in and say, hey, I've got a national footprint, 500 locations, and they will all move in one direction and be loyal to us. Now, think about that in the white space with Microsoft. Microsoft is all about loyalty. So if we're loyal to Microsoft, Microsoft will be loyal back. So I see Microsoft as the strategy. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, but who would go to Microsoft? Well, ask IT guys that were in business 5, 6, 7 years ago when 365 came out and everybody said, nobody's ever going to put their email at Microsoft. And where's all the email now? Microsoft. And so
I'm sure after the last week or 10 days, everybody would agree with you on the loyalty part.
Yeah. You know what though? Think about this for a minute. I think it's abject loyalty. I think there's times where one half of a relationship makes a really dumb move. And then the other side says, we don't like that. Loyalty means they step back, look at it and say, you know what, you're right. And they're big enough to change their mind.
Right. What's funny is at that space, when you talk about 250 desktops or less, that's almost all the businesses in the United States.
Absolutely.
And they're already using Microsoft. It's just there wasn't a direct relationship. There was this silly partner in the middle. Microsoft better see this community as their sales force, right? One way or the other.
So think about this though. I think they've always wanted to deal with us. It's the problem is we're fickle. And let me explain that to you, right? So let's say that Microsoft did a deal down here in this space and they said, you know what, we're going to take all our leads down there at 250 and less. We're going to take our end of life leads and all of that stuff, and we're going to give it to an MSP. MSP goes on site, and the client says, well, is this the only option? Oh, no, by the way, there's 40 options. Now, why would and that's the rub. Both sides have to get to a point where they say, you know what? Loyalty is what gets us there. And it's an MSP is going to have to decide, I'm going to be loyal to a brand or a vendor. Because when you're not, why should a vendor spend millions and millions of dollars building your business when you're fickle?
Right. So we're almost out of time, but how can people get in touch with you and find out more either about Vision or just about the 20 in general?
If you're interested in the 20, you can go to www.the20.com, and that's the numbers 20.com. You can fill out a form there and somebody will follow up with you. If you're interested in becoming a part of the 20, our Vision Conference has a website. And what is that, Crystal?
It's the20vision.com.
The20vision.com.
All right.
And so if you're interested, and you don't have to be a part of the 20 now, it's been open to the general public. So if you just wanted to preview, if you just step back and said, you know what, I really want to know what the 20 feels like before I call and get engaged, easiest way to do it, come to Dallas. I promise you, we'll have a lot of content that any IT company that'll move them forward. Security and growth will be the main push of the conference. So if you ever want to grow, you'll learn how to grow there. And you're also going to learn how to secure your clients, because the reality is it's the two things that keep us up awake at night. How do I grow? And my God, if I do grow, how do I keep it to where I keep it?
Right, exactly. All right, Tim Conkle, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And I think I'll see you probably at ChannelCon.
You will. And Carl, I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.